Well, that was a movie.
Hello and welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I'm giving my first thoughts on The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which is the sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard, which both of them starred Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek, although her role in this is a lot bigger than it was in the last one, and also we're adding Antonio Banderas to play a Greek villain. He's not going to do an accent other than his own. He's not going to try to act Greek. He just is Greek. So in case you don't know the plot of this film, it follows the same characters from the first one, where Ryan Reynolds plays a bodyguard, Samuel L. Jackson plays a hitman, and Salma Hayek is a con artist. So we've got these three characters all forced to work together again to try to save the world in another over-the-top way. This one goes even more over the top than the first one did, though. The entire plot doesn't really make sense. Essentially, Antonio Banderas' character is trying to upload a virus that kills people. We don't really know why, but when you upload a virus, just things explode. People get their eyes gouged out in graphic ways and things happen. So Antonio Banderas is trying to do a thing, and the good guys that are kind of good guys, but not really, they're good in this situation, are trying to stop him. And there's things happening. Yeah, I'm gonna get into spoilers right away because this isn't highbrow enough or in-depth enough to really need not to be talked about in a spoiler way. So if you don't want anything spoiled, you can click away. You can go watch it, enjoy it, sure. This is, I'd give it a soft 6. That is my reaction, a soft 6 out of 10. It's not highbrow, it's not trying to be, it's nothing creative, it's just taking the characters from the first one, which was a movie that I actually did enjoy. It's taking those same characters and applying them to a new plot that doesn't really matter. The plot didn't really matter in the first one either. I didn't rewatch it before watching this because I didn't really care. I thought I remembered it well enough that I didn't need to be refreshed on it. But it did take me a minute to try to remember what the plot from it was, because I remembered Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds bickering the whole movie, because that was the appeal of the movie, was to see these two characters interacting. And like I said, I did enjoy that movie. I think I did put it on my top 10 movies from that year list. I gave it like a 7. I enjoyed that movie because of the surprisingly amazing chemistry between those two actors. I do love both Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson individually. I just never would have thought to put them together in a movie, but they were great together and I enjoyed it so much. Salma Hayek in her limited role was also good. Part of why this movie isn't as good is you took what was great chemistry between these two characters and messed it up a little bit with the added Salma Hayek into it. She becomes almost the focal point of this story. Ryan Reynolds is still, I think, considered the main character here, but Salma Hayek is so central to the plot that she has like half the dialogue between the three of them. Even when she's not talking, Samuel L. Jackson is primarily interacting with her, and Ryan Reynolds is like a third wheel to this trifecta of characters, where he's kind of reacting to how they're interacting instead of directly interacting with Samuel L. Jackson. There's a point later on, like around the third act, beginning of the third act, where Salma Hayek is removed from the equation because she's kidnapped by the bad guy, Antonio Banderas, and so you just have Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson interacting together again, and that's when the movie actually felt good again. Not, like I said, it's not highbrow good, it's not a great film, but that is when it became the most enjoyable the movie was. Because, like I said, the reason I enjoyed the first one so much is the chemistry between Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson, and you remove that from the majority of this film, and it's not like the rest of the movie is that good to begin with. Like I said, the plot of this movie made no sense. It wasn't even intended to make sense, I don't think. It was just a vehicle for people to interact with. The first one was kind of like that. Like, it didn't really matter that much. It was just a reason for Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson to be tied at the hip together, but still, there was elements to the plot that you cared about and were invested in at least a bit with Ryan Reynolds and his ex-girlfriend. She's not in this movie, by the way. We've totally ignored that concept, and now Ryan Reynolds is in this state of like complete disarray where he doesn't want to use a gun, he doesn't want to do anything with violence, he's just out of it, and it takes until that third act for him to get back into it. And it's an okay joke, but it doesn't really land for the entirety of this movie. Like, it's something that you kind of wanted to say once and get over, but it's the majority of this movie. And there's a lot of jokes in this movie that you wish kind of were just said once and then moved on from. Like Morgan Freeman in this movie there's this little joke twist here that Morgan Freeman is actually Ryan Reynolds' dad. And you're like, haha, that's funny because he's Morgan Freeman. They're not related. And then you're kind of like, well, now Morgan Freeman's in this movie. And then, oh, he's also working for the bad guy, and you don't care. None of it really matters. And Antonio Banderas, he's a fun actor. All of these actors are fun. Like, even Morgan Freeman and Antonio Banderas, Ryan Reynolds, Salma Hayek, Samuel L. Jackson. You think that this will be a lot more fun than it actually is based on the cast, but none of them seem to be doing much other than Salma Hayek. This seems like a vehicle for her to show off her character, which is a fine character, but if I'm being honest, I cared the least about her character of those 5 characters. I wanted it to be centered more around Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson again, because that's what made the first one entertaining. Also, both of these movies, they're not action movies, they're comedies that have action in them, but they have a lot of action. And the action isn't great. It's very choppy, it's very shaky, it's confusing, it's hard to follow along with the plot that makes no sense. There's obviously a lot of parts of this movie that were changed or edited in post to try to streamline it and make it make more sense. This movie's only like 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes, somewhere around there. And I feel like this movie was supposed to be 2 hours, but they realized that they want to cut out a bunch of stuff because it wasn't good, and then they also realized, oh wait, now it doesn't make sense, so they added some things in, like editing tricks back in. Like, there's so many obvious moments where people are obviously being voiced over and saying completely different things than what they were actually saying in the movie. And they're saying stuff like, oh, well, this is the plot. And you're like, I know the plot is hard to follow, but if you're going to make this plot as pointless as it is, I didn't need to be reminded why they're underwater drilling with the diamond drill to blow up Europe and return Greece to its former glory. Like, ultimately, what saves this movie at all and gives it that light 6, like barely a 6. This is a movie that you can watch with some friends or go on a date to, sit in the back and not really pay attention to. It's one of those movies that you are going to forget about in T-minus 2 minutes type deal. Like, it's not memorable at all, but it can pass time, and you may be bored at times, but only if you're sitting by yourself trying to be invested and, you know, critique the movie. I don't think you'll be, like, mad at this movie. I don't think you'll be sorely disappointed by it, as long as you have the expectation that it is just, you know, a goofy movie with explosions and some Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson humor. That's all it is. That's all it is. But yeah, I won't really remember it. I won't remember anything about it because there's nothing about it worth remembering. So that's what I had to think. But what do you guys think? If you saw it, let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.